Hi, this is Kaylan, better known as Professor Psy Goodness and Angels, and my angels and I are as one human being. I know it is beyond that sight you are seeing. We're doing very good, my miracles, my wonderful angels. And remember to have healthy eating, appropriate speech, appropriate behavior, appropriate clothing, appropriate spacing, and know the science and anatomy of all things. Also remember to have the goals of the body, the household, and the outside responsibilities. So here you see this image and you're thinking, wow, that is great potential. If only all the animals was in clothes, what would life be like for us? What would be in store for the world? What kind of potential could we reach that to? And that is a glorious, wonderful question. And my angels and I will say that the animals have incredible and wonderful potential. It was not their fault that they were born that way, but we will say that they have incredible and wonderful potential. And all animals deserve to have clothes, whether if they're squirrels, horses even. We have these kinds of horse outfits that we do recommend everyone to have if they have horses or even cows. These fit cows as well, and they have certain sizes. And also from personal experience, I, over the many years, have taken care of so many little ones in my life, and I always had them in baby clothes, and they fit the baby clothes very efficiently. I had to sew a little bit of the clothes to adjust their fitting. But as you can see, I had a lot of little ones at one point, and this was back in 2020. I had so many little ones to take care of at a long point in time. Now, we always wanted to make sure that they had what they needed, and the one thing that they needed was parenting, the one most important thing. And parenting is definitely involving action to do what a parent would do. And an example, here's the before and after shaving. And yes, grooming is very important. I mean, this was Gabriel, the one that we had adopted. After shaving Gabriel, he was like a completely different little one. Not only through what he behaved like before was very mellow. He just did not really want to do a lot of anything. And then once he had gotten shaved, he just wanted to play and to enjoy life. We had little pop outs, and that was the ball pit that he loved to go in, and he loved to play with their incredible pop outs, and we had tunnels for them and all kinds of wonderful things. And this is little Austin Izzy, and we had rescued them from the neighbors that did not treat him well at all. And this was the previous house rental in 2020. And talking about seriously decorating, actually, if you see in the background, there was 80 balloons up in the house. It's a lot of balloons. And we had the pop outs, and here was little Austin Izzy sitting at the table ready to get his food. Very good. And little Gabriel went in the baby carrier everywhere. They did not leave our side. And also, we had them in the stroller for quite some time as well. Very good. And this was Raphael. Raphael was such a blessing, and we had taken such good care of little Raphael. The wonderful part about seeing them on how well that they behaved was the fact that when they was parented, you definitely seen those stages of evolution in their mind. Very good. You see different behaviors, different types of thinking, and Raphael was such a good heart and a good spirit, and he loved this stroller. He loved to sit in the stroller and just enjoy his time. Very good. We had the little bottle there, so in case he wanted to have his drink. And also, we had made sure that they was interacting in healthy, good ways, and they had learned so much. And Raphael had such a good heart and such a good spirit, and was very social with the other little ones as well. You could tell that they was communicating, that they had some form of communication. And when it comes to Raphael, he was such a good, energetic spirit. But the first thing I had ever built was something that I did not ever imagine. I had to build his coffin. And it literally kept me awake for almost 2 days straight. Building that coffin, it was the first thing I had ever built. Had wrapped that in plastic sheeting and gave him my favorite, as you could see at the top. That was my favorite poncho, and had given him a blanket and tucked him in for the very last time. It was devastating when it happened, but I had gotten so attached and so close to them that it was so hard to let go. And later on, what had happened was little Malachi was found in a devastating situation. Gabriel, which is the bigger little one, he was in the baby carrier and he had his diaper on, and we went to the store and had to change his diaper while we was there. And after coming back, had hands full of groceries. I had to walk around this time after getting hit by a car. And it was such a hassle. Gabriel was crying. He was, thought, what is going on? What is the matter? And what had happened was Gabriel was just really complaining, and I thought that his tail had gotten, stuck, because what we had to do, the diapers had to have this hole like piece so that their tail could go through that. But I was so concerned about Gabriel that I was thinking we need to adjust his diaper, but I had hands full of groceries. Well, it was about a mile or two from the store already, and was going up the hill, and had about 500, 600 feet left. And, up the hill, you had to turn left and go all the way down the road. And so Gabriel, you would not think that he would remember, where we was at, but literally he jumps out of the baby carrier and he walks straight towards the house. And that was at the bottom of the hill, which there was about a mile to go, possibly. And I mean, he remembered every way. He even remembered to turn at the turn. And we would walk everywhere with the baby carrier. And I mean, he had processed all of the directions, which was really shocking that he knew exactly where to go. But the reason why he was doing that was because there was a little kitten that was meowing, and we did not know what was the cause of that. And apparently the neighbors said that he could have been dumped off, the little kitten. And suddenly, we figured out that little Malachi, he was a lot smaller than this around that time. Very good. And little Mally was such a good heart, and Malachi had unfortunate problems, and you would not see his face and think, oh, you have these kinds of problems. But little Malachi had such a strong type of development, and it was unfortunate, but around that time Malachi had roundworms. And the roundworms that Malachi had to have, he had to have some kind of treatment for that. And so I had become my own at-home veterinarian and had ordered things on Walmart.com, WalmartPetRx.com, and they even had some at the Royal King store, which was direct. And it was something called Panacur. And Panacur is for horses, but the veterinarians at the animal shelters said that it would be best to get the Panacur, mix that up, and give them a small dosage. And so they said to do that for 3 days. So after 3 days of giving them small dosages, his worm problem was gone. And it was so amazing to see his attitude before and after, because he just behaved so much more energetically. And it was such a blessing to see how their behavior was before and after. So around this time after Raphael had passed, which was really devastating, we had all 3 of these little ones. And they did not behave the same after Raphael. Raphael kept them together and was very energetic, and they loved to play around. We called them the 3 Musketeers. And little Malachi is the one in the middle. Austin Izzy is the one on the right side, and little Gabriel is the one on the left side. And always had them in their baby clothes, and they had so many clothes. They had a 45-gallon tote full of clothes, you all. And I just loved their behavior. I loved how they was very communicative in an action way. Now, this is something that happened a little bit after that. There was a little kitten in the back. You can see Malachi, Gabriel, and Austin, but you're thinking, who's behind that? And that was Kale. So we called him after a plant, which was kale, because kale is something that is very good for you. So we say, my kale, like, hey, you're good for me. Well, we had saved him, and he had a devastating situation, bless his heart. He had a longhorn tick on him, and he was bleeding out of his urine, and also he had a hole in his belly, and he was bleeding, and we found him in the woods. And it was so hard to get him to come to the food bowl, but we told him, we said, listen, you have to know what is best for yourself. And we had to talk to him, understand that talking to him had led him to come near me. But if it was not for that talk that we had, he would have just ran off. So that is just an example of how they actually understand what we are saying. And little Michael, it was a devastating situation. They all had gotten veterinarian treatments, and it was not very expensive to get to the veterinarian treatments. Actually, Panacur was only about $9, and so everything was very affordable. And little Malachi, we had to customize his clothing until he got big enough to get baby clothes on. So Malachi's clothes, because he was so small, had to be custom made, and that means I had to sew his clothing. And when it comes to all animals, they deserve to have clothes on, and they deserve to have proper parenting and proper care. Now, later on, I know what you are thinking. This was little Malachi. This was their first ever. This was one of his first outfits that he had. And little Gabriel would make the most funniest faces. Watch his facial expression. So you see Gabriel's facial expression now. Look at his facial expression then. So that is very embracive. That shows signs that they love to make facial expressions. Then look at this face. This face is just saying that he is very calm. You could tell his behavior and attitude attitude, but his facial expression had differed upon what was going on around the time. And he really did express a lot of things through image. And this was on his birthday. You could tell how exciting he was. He was how excited, sorry, he was. And that was his new outfit that he was in. And you can see that beautiful behavior. He was obviously feeling so wonderful about life. He actually got to open up his presents, and he had tons of presents for his birthday. And he would seriously pose for certain things. He posed in this image, and he posed in a lot of images when he had given that facial expression. And it was so wonderful to see their spontaneous attitudes and behaviors, and the way that they had expressed themselves was something that I would say is beyond human. And another thing that is a little beyond human is the love that they had for each other. The way that they would just take care of each other and bond with each other. And we gave them little mohawks, as you could see. And we as my angels and I as one human being. I'm always alone in the physical life, and my angels are always with me. And the bond that they had with each other was very united. And it was so beautiful to see the brotherly bond that they had. And Gabriel really looked over his brother, especially after losing Raphael. And I would just love to see that innocent behavior that they had. And I love to take care of them and brush their teeth. They were such a big responsibility, and had taken them a shower so much, and they got a shower every single day. They had gotten care every single day. There was not a day that it was skipped. They also had gotten their teeth brushed. Now, they can have regular baby toothpaste, but around this time had gotten the NutraVet toothpaste online, and that was actually more expensive than my toothpaste and more expensive than the baby toothpaste. But they can have regular baby toothpaste, which is fine. And would brush their teeth every single day, would not skip a day. They would get a shower and their teeth brushed. Very good. And that was little Malachi getting his teeth brushed as well. And they all had special toothbrushes, the baby toothbrushes. And here little Austin Izzy was getting his teeth brushed as well. I did not wear my cap then. As you've seen in one of the first images, you've seen my long red hair. I used to have long red hair, but I shaved it all off. And it felt so amazing. My wonderful friend, Gail, she had adopted the boys, Gabriel, Malachi, and Austin Izzy. And so we are very thankful for Gail, and we pray that they are doing good and that they are staying strong. And we'd really taken care of them. Oh, back to little Michael. Michael had ended up going to the veterinarian and getting treatments because he had a hole in his belly that needed to be treated. And so he had, not sure what the hole was from, whether if he was stabbed from something that he stepped on or whatsoever that was, but we patched him up. As soon as we got him, we had to shave him and cut the hairs around the area so we can patch him up, because it was very severe. Any little one that's out there, they have a lot of risk, whether if it's ticks, fleas, or even getting cuts from things that are on the ground. And so we pray for these little ones out here because it was so severe. And actually, a little after Gail Pearl, we call her Pearl, had adopted little Austin, Malachi, and Gabriel, we had created these tote houses, and I had to move to 2 to 3 different locations. And that's why they had to be adopted, because I could not take them with me in my emergency camping situation I had to go in. I had to live camping for about 3 or 4 months back at the end of 2020. And then a church ministry had helped, and they had helped me with this transitional housing. after moving from the transitional housing, had went to these apartment buildings and had created a lot of things for the animals. And one of these things are these tote houses right here. Now, these tote houses are pretty amazing, and we will say that they definitely are very good. Now, when it comes to the bird houses, we did love to put little bird houses out. As you can see, this little birdhouse had cut an opening, but they did not want to go into the birdhouse for some reason. But little Gabriel had such wonderful experiences. Unfortunately, I could not adopt them back. And I was in the apartment for so long, and Gail Pearl, she had gotten really attached to them as well. And after putting the tote houses out, had made sure to put food out every single day. Did not skip a day that food was put out. Had different kinds of food, but did not want to get the kind of food that was practically cannibalism. Because even though a creature is a different species, I mean, if you're eating a creature, you're practically doing cannibalism. So we do not want that. And so this is the kind of food that we got for them that was actually very good. Let's see here. And this was the all vegetarian kind. Now I know that there is fish in the ocean, etc. I did not want them to be on a vegetarian diet. I wanted them to be on a vegan diet. But unfortunately, they do not have, now this is really shocking, that they do not have vegan food for animals. I think that's a major issue. You know, we do not want them to do cannibalism, and neither do we want people to do cannibalism to the animals as well, because they have DNA that's very similar to humans. Now, a little after a while of putting the houses out, making sure that they had lots of shelters that we put out. Also, beforehand, there was chickens in the house rental before the camping situation, and this was around the time of having Gabriel, Malachi, and little Austin Izzy. This was Samantha. We had Charlie, Sam, and Samantha that the neighbors had adopted, and they did not take care of them. And when it had gotten cold, they were crying, roostering, and they definitely needed more shelter. And we had built a loft for them. It was actually my first loft I ever built. And my angels and I are as one human being, so I did this all alone. And then also had built a ramp that could hold over 300 pounds. It was pretty amazing. That's the other things I built. Now, the first thing I built was the coffin. That was the first thing I ever had built in my life. And then the loft and the ramp was after. But they had to have a loft to stay away from the ground and have some sort of shelter, because they did not, it was just like an open little house, and they did not have anywhere to actually sit down and to have closure. And when it comes to chicken, they have to have closure. They have to have some kind of warmth so that the wind is not going to wipe them, because hypothermia is a real thing. And hypothermia is very scary, and you do not want them to have hypothermia. And it was such a concern. So I bring them inside. I took them a shower, bring them inside. And yes, chicken poop got everywhere. That's the honest truth. But you know what? It was a feeling of, hey, they're taken care of. And it was such a shocking experience. But back to the other housing situation. This was at the apartments, and had made sure that they had food and shelter. Actually had built that by scrap material and covered it in plastic sheeting so there was no water to get onto there. Made sure that there was lots of food every single day. There was not a day skipped. And especially during the winter time when they needed that the most. Now, putting a lot of totes out there was definitely something that could help. They love to go into the totes because it was a great form of shelter for them. And when it comes to making sure that they have shelter, that's number one main priority. You have to realize that they've never even had their ABCs sent to them. They have not had education. They were just born to life. Is it their fault that they were born? Absolutely not. It's not their fault that they were born. And they need education. They need proper care. They need love. And a little after that, after a while of putting the food out for the little ones, there was a tote that we put out, and there was a little one in there one day, and it was about to flood. And there was this little one that was in the tote, and something just led us to go in that tote and get that little one. And that day we shaved her, and there was so much hair that she had. That's all the hair that's on the floor there. And she just looked like there was a big bunch of burdens that were just taken off of her shoulders that day. And we had named her Elijah Jr. Very good. And Elijah Jr. had a traumatized type of behavior until after a long while of getting proper care. So sometimes when you go through that kind of trauma, you need a lot of consistent care and a good teacher to guide you. And so these little ones definitely deserve to have parents. It was not their fault the way that they was born. And shaving her was definitely something that she loved so much. And this was her favorite show. She loved to watch the Dr. Bynock shows. It was her favorite thing to do. And she always had the mirror right there because we wanted her to learn self-love and we wanted her to love herself. And she actually loved to just walk by, and her favorite exciting walk, her tail would go everywhere, and she would walk so happy because she was so taken care of. And that was the true happiness walk. And she enjoyed her Dr. Bynock's episodes and learning about life. She loved her cartoons that she would watch. And she would get a shower every single day. There would not be a day that she would not get a shower. And she loved to get proper care. She loved to stay in her carrier as well when we went to places. And would shower her every single day. And we actually have previous episodes, 24 hours, that proves that we would shower her and take care of her every single day. I know she was definitely a big responsibility, I'll tell you that, but she literally went everywhere with us. And she got nervous a lot of the times, but once she had gotten the routine of getting out and experiencing life, you could definitely tell that there was a lot going on in her little brain, and she was definitely thinking so many things. And you could tell the evolution that she had just by her behavior and her action. She learned very fast and very efficiently. And over time of giving her showers every single day, there was a very big difference. Now, at first, she was recovering from the trauma, so a lot of the times you may get like a little bit while they're recovering from the trauma, but you will get the amazing before and after when you truly see how they do afterwards. And so consistently brushing her teeth every single day, giving her the proper parenting and the proper care, the proper education as well, she started to recover from the trauma, and she started to behave with incredible attitude and behavior. At night, she expected a bedtime story. She expected to get that proper care and love that she deserved. And she loved to be cared for. And we are praying for all of them that they are doing good. Elijah Jr. unfortunately had to be adopted because I was moving, and I was so scared to have Elijah Jr. go with other people, and even Gabriel. I was very attached to Gabriel as well, and I knew that that is what I had to do, and I had no way to adopt them afterwards. And so all that I could do is pray and pray and pray every single day. And to this day, we pray for little Elijah Jr. We pray for Austin Izzy. We pray for them all that they get the proper care that they deserve. And all animals of all different kinds deserves to have proper care, proper clothing, proper parenting. And we pray also for Raphael Jr. as well. And it was definitely a very difficult time of having that kind of attachment and not having a choice but to let them go. And we will say, when it comes to these little ones, now these images are, this image here was from Google. Now this one is a squirrel, and think about just seeing them in an outfit. Do you not feel better about life? I mean, to be honest with you, I think that it's the most bothering feeling to see these little ones out here naked. That's just personal thoughts, because I know that I am pure of heart. And little Elijah Jr., she got proper care. She was in her diaper when she needed to be. And so was Gabriel at times when we went to the store and he needed to go to the bathroom and we had to change his diaper. Had to learn that they needed diapers and to make diapers for them. You just get regular diapers and then you cut a hole for their tail and that's it. And also Elijah Jr., she would get pineapple fed to her as well. So that was an image of when she got pineapple. Thank you. Everyone deserves to have proper care and proper love and proper parenting, education, most definitely, to have that kind of bond. It was such a wonderful bond to have them and to care for them and to guide them. It was something that I want to see everywhere. I want to see all over the world. And not only can you bond with the little ones, you can bond with larger ones as well. And now some creatures are born larger, but it's not their fault that they were born a certain way. But I love to see horses in clothes. I think that if I personally had a horse, they would always be in their clothing. And I would definitely have an enclosure for them during the winter time. I think that no creature should be just left out there, and they definitely should have an enclosure. They should have lots of food, and they should not just be left out to not know what their purpose is in life. They have an incredible and wonderful purpose in life. I really like that image there. Now that just really says the potential, you all. These little ones, these babies, these animals have potential. They were born and they did not receive the education that they needed. What makes them so different than a human baby? Honestly, there's not a difference, because they have a soul. They have a subconscious. They have development. They have mentality. They have 2 eyes. We have 2 eyes. But regardless if they had 2 or 4 eyes, it's the fact that they are a living being and they can evolve. But think about why they're not evolving. The reason why they are not evolving now is because people are not caring for them the way that they deserve. Even birds, for an example. Look at these incredible, wonderful flight suits that they have created for birds. Now, I think that that is so adorable. They're like little diaper flight suits, and that is just so beautiful to see. All creatures deserve to have clothes on, but think about the trauma that they receive going through what they're going through. I mean, talking about severe trauma to where, what are they eating? Where do they sleep at? And how they survive. I mean, honestly, if you really think about it, it is severely traumatizing. Now, I relate to the animals, and a big reason why is because I spent years as a homeless child, and no one cared for me for a long time. And there was times to where I had to crawl underneath cars and curl into a ball and go to sleep. I was devastated. I was scared. I did not eat for days and possibly even weeks, and I had seizures because I did not eat and I did not sleep for so long. When I was a homeless child, it was very, very severe. And the seizure that I had seen something during the seizure. And it was just so traumatizing. There was just so many things that was traumatizing. And what was seen during the seizure was like this tunnel that was spinning. And there was these communications coming out from the tunnel. And there was so many communications that it just felt so chaotic. It was just the chaos of communications. And our brain actually goes through that. Our brain has to process thousands of communications at one point in time. And that's things like the nervous system, the bowels moving, everything that we say, all of our movements. Our brain is always having to constantly think and constantly deal with those communications. And when I had a seizure, I had heard those communications and everything was spinning. It was a dark tunnel and everything was spinning in communications. It was practically like I was going through a neuropath in my brain or something. As a subconscious, actually we are smaller than what you think. In the brain, we can be very small, but through the eyes, it makes it feel like we are very big. But I was not cared for as a homeless child. After the children's homes and academies, even the children's homes kicked me out. They did not want me. And the academies had ended up abusing me. They were good at first, but then they had ended up abusing me, and they were reported for abuse after it happened, but not during the time. And they locked me in this room for a very long time, and it was not legally certified for them to do that. And like for almost a year, had just stared at those blank walls, LED lights flashed in my face. I never wanted to go back there. And I had little meals, and they did not let me have education while I was in that little room. And so it was, very severe. And that's the reason why I had ran away from the academies, and because they were threatening to put me back in another academies, and I just avoided to get abused like that again. But I did not imagine what I was going to go through. I went across the country at 15 years old, and it had become so severe. I had gotten stabbed, shot at, and after going across the country, I had spent so long without food, without water, without things that I needed, and I ended up having severe medical problems. And they even put on medical records that I may have had concussion syndrome from the severity of the trauma. And the thing is, you think about, what do these animals go through? Do they go through similar things? I mean, to be honest with you, I cried just 2 nights ago just thinking about what these little ones are going through, because I know what that is like. But this little one had ate a little through the trash can, and I thought, how hungry do you have to be to do that? And that's the severities. That's how severe it gets for them. And we put food out every single day. I share my food with them. I will eat half of my food, and the other half of my food I would give to them. Although I cannot afford to get food like I used to, I can try my very best to feed them with what I have to eat. And I know I'm doing a cooking strategy of candle cooking. So we cook with candles, and like the 100-pack of candles. But let my angels and I tell you that it's not their fault the way that they was born. And think about if you had it without the government, without all of these inventions. You're thinking in your mind, oh, it would be easy to build a house. It would be easy to to filter my own water. It would be easy to cook my own food. No, it is not. If you think about all of everything that you need to do all at once, how are you, what kind of food bowl are you going to have? Are you going to make it out of clay? Then you would have to bake it. And the fact is, how are you going to start a fire? Are you going to find 2 flint stones? Well, guess what? 2 flint stones are not always in the area. Because the way that they did flint stones, they would have to find a chalky stone, and sometimes they would not even find it. So you have to realize the severities of what it's like without these inventions and without these things that we were gifted. We were gifted with these inventions from thousands of years of the development of humanity. Okay, that's a long time. And seeing these animals out here, it's not their fault the way that they was born. And they deserve to have that proper parenting, that proper care, the proper love, the proper support, and just seeing their clothes on them, I think it puts a relief to my mind, because I honestly feel a lot of stress when I think about how they have it in life. And I just see them in clothes. I see these images and I say, you know what? They have incredible potential. That is potential being met. Seeing this little one in this outfit that honestly looks very casual for them, that looks like something that can actually happen. I want this to happen. I want them to have custom-made clothes. There is companies in the world right now that is creating clothes for animals. And let my angels and I tell you that I am proud of these companies. I want more companies that create clothing for these little ones. They deserve to have clothing. Very good. I actually want to create clothes for animals. And we may include that in the Cygnus Industries because of the severe trauma that I've went through and the relation that I have with the understanding of what they have went through. And when it comes to the severe trauma, it actually took a very, very long time for me to recover from that severe trauma. And I was thrown around after I had become a homeless child. I was denied by the military. I flew back across the United States and I tried to join the military. They denied me. So a little bit after that, I had flew back across the United States. And then afterwards, I tried to go to school for the first time since like the 6th grade at 18 years old. And I ended up getting abandoned on the 3rd day. And she drove 45 minutes away and just abandoned me on this porch. And later then I was thrown out. And then after that, I had an apartment that wanted to get rid of me because they only approved because the sheriff that was searching for me as a homeless child actually felt sorry for me that I was abandoned and thrown out. And so he was like, I promise I'm going to help you to get this housing. And then afterwards, after the sheriff's department got off their back, they were already planning to evict me, and they ended up doing so. And then afterwards, and I mean like a few days, I was hearing it in the spiritual network, knowing that they was planning to do that. And they used an excuse saying that it was because of the exterminator, refusing for the exterminator to come into the house with their dirty, nasty boots and spray this terrible toxic spray inside of the residence. That just does not sound reasonable. Well, the thing is, after that, and that's the point, when people plan to do stuff like that, it was their evil things, but they did not see my perspective of how traumatized that I am, of how traumatized that I have, what I have went through. And it takes a long time to actually recover from that. The only time I actually had time to recover was after I was hit by a 3,000-pound car, because after a few housings afterwards, I had to go from place to place, and I had gotten hit by a 3,000-pound car. I have a permanent indentation in my skeleton, and after that, I went homeless after I was hit by a car, and then I had found this house rental, thank goodness. And during the time of the house rental, I had a lot of time to myself. For the first time, I was not worried if someone would throw me out. I was not worried if I would go anywhere else. I felt like I was safe there, that I was not going to go anywhere else, and that it was going to be good for me. And so it was a really good feeling to have that consistency that I needed. And it was the first time I ever had a real home. And it was the first feeling of home, but I had to leave from there because the CO2 poisoning had gotten so terrible from the mold infestation, and the animals, they would not stop the abuse. And so the chickens would be out starving, in starvation. And the other neighbors, I had taken care of the neighbors, even though it should have been opposing because I was the one with the injuries, but they would keep everything like a hoarder. And I had to clean up their house like more times than I could count. And well, more times than what I could keep up with. I mean, I can count to 1 billion surely, but it would take a seriously long time. But I do know that when it comes to the house, we would clean up their house so many times, and they were actually, it seemed like they were good, but they would say things that were actually really mean to me. And then the other neighbors that they sort of tag teamed and had done something really mean to me. And I thought that they seen me as a really good friend because of how much I had done for them. And I paid for a lot of presents and gifts for them, community support for them, because they were so good to me, as I thought, until they had done mean things. And the chickens was one of the major things. When they had went on vacation and spent their money on vacations, I had stayed at the house, and I was going to take care of their house and the animals, but they had wanted the other neighbors to take care of their things. And I had just cleaned their house that day before they left, and they did not tell me anything about it. And the other neighbors ended up getting mad and yelling at me, and I had to call the officers and speak to them about it. And then we was on the phone with the neighbors, and they did not take up for me. And I was like, I just cleaned their house today, and they were very rude and disrespectful. But you would think that a good person is a good person until after a while. And it was so sad of how I was neglected, but it was also that the animals were neglected. The chickens, you've seen me taking them a bath. I took them a bath a lot because of how contaminated things was, and they ended up being sick, and then I got sick off of the chickens because I had washed my clothes in the same bathtub I took them a bath in, and I did not know that they were sick. I thought that they were fine, and they seemed fine, but I should have given them veterinarian treatments. But they was starving, and around the time of them going on vacations, the other neighbors did not feed the chickens. And I was upset because they had not taken up for me, and I had just cleaned their house and spent hours and hours cleaning their house, and they were very disrespectful towards me. And then I took photos of the chickens' little house, and I said, why are they not getting food? It's been 3 days and they have not gotten food. I ended up having to buy 40 pounds of chicken food, 40 pounds, to make sure that they had food. But a little bit after that, I said, you know what? I cannot deal with this anymore. And I had to leave that place. I had taken care of everything, and I was not respected and not appreciated for what I did. And I also taught the kids a lot of science. We did lava lamps together, homemade lava lamps and everything. And we did science classes, and we'd put the desk outside and we'd teach them science and about density. We did the homemade lava lamps and taught about density. And so I thought that they would care for me because of how much effort I put forth in the bond of a friendship. But she did not care for me, and it was terrible. But the thing is when it came to the animals, I did everything I could to take care of them. And little Austin Izzy was definitely the baby that I cared for so much. I related to his trauma. And the reason why they named him Izzy was because they always had to ask, where is he? and he went missing in the woods for over a month, and they did not put food out, and they did not even put water and food, and the little one it was his first time being out there alone. And what they did is when I would take care of him, and I told them over the telephone that I paid hundreds of dollars for their veterinarian treatments. And what they did is they would knock on the door, and I was renting their house rental, which was, they had two houses on the same property. And so they were next door. And so what they would do is they would say, I want my cat back. And they were very rude about it. And they said, if you do not give him back, we are going to, they threatened the roof over my head. And I had to give him back. And once I did, not even an hour later, they took his baby clothes off. They threw his baby clothes that I paid for away. And then they threw him back outside, not even an hour after that. And the thing is, they had actually done that multiple times. Not only once. So it was really, they were trying. It was as though they were trying to get me sick because I had to give him veterinarian treatments because he had pinworms. And I asked them if they knew what these things was coming out of his stool. And they said, oh, yes, they knew all about pinworms. And since they knew about that, why were they doing that? Not even an hour later after they threatened the roof over my head, taking little Austin, I named him Austin. They had just thrown him out. And you know what? I feel like there is animal abusers out there that need to be addressed. That is absolutely not acceptable. They do have laws on wildlife. They have laws on animals of cats, dogs, chickens, and all kinds of, even ducks. They have more laws on animals than they ever have in the history. And the reason why is because we are going through climate change, and there has been creatures that have went extinct. My angels and I actually talked to the warden not too long ago, and we spoke about the extinction of animals, and there was different species that have went extinct, and there was one called the passenger pigeon, and unfortunately they went extinct. Is that not shocking? Because of climate change and because people were hurting them. And so when it comes to animals, we need to take care of them. We need to be their parents. They need parents. They need education. And they do communicate in a way. They communicate. And there's even episode videos on YouTube that you can see that they're sort of murmuring words. And they're starting to murmur words and starting to speak. I think that's something that is very special. And Gabriel and Malachi would speak in a different way, and they would even show me signs of things that I'd never even seen from humans. Like Gabriel was one time staring at this piece of the wall, and I was thinking, Gabriel, what are you looking at? And sort of looked what he was looking at, and it was a fly on the wall. And I had gotten the fly that was on the wall by cupping the fly and putting a paper under it and then releasing the fly out. We do that a lot. But Gabriel was so smart. I mean, he had such good vision. And you could just see little Gabriel smile and just say, I want to see that smile more often. He had such incredible expressions. And I loved how he behaved. Little Gabriel was such a blessing, and we are praying for Gabriel. And we are praying for all of the animals of the world that they get that potential met, because they deserve a very good life. And remember that we are the parents of the animals. We as humans are similar in DNA to them, yes. And we need to take care of them. All animals deserve to have clothes on. You can consider humanity as an animal. I mean, if you really want to look at life the way that it actually is. And all animals, all creatures deserve to have parenting, deserve to have proper care. And we are praying for them all to get that proper care that they need. We are praying for them all to get the love, to get the cleanliness, to be clean, and also to be treated medically, such as these medical treatments. You can get this on Walmart.com for great affordable prices, as well as places like the RoyalKings.com as well. The Royal King is a store that you could physically go to, so that is a trustworthy place. And we pray for them. This is little Austin. Bless his heart. We sure do pray for them, and we had such good, wonderful times together. Certainly did enjoy the times of them enjoying life, because when they would enjoy life, it would be a relief to the stress that I had. I had such stress to think that they were out there alone, not being taken care of. And no matter the amount, whether if there was 4 or just 2 or 3, we made sure that they all had clothes on, that they all had a shower, that they all had groomed, they all had care and proper love that they deserved. We pray that you all had learned a little bit from this, and that all creatures deserve to be equalized. All creatures deserve to be loved. Regardless of what species that they are, everyone deserves to have clothes, proper parenting, education, and proper care. Stay healthy, stay clean, and stay safe. And this is Kaylan, better known as Professor Saigon and Angels. And my angels and I are as one human being. I know it is beyond the sight you are seeing. We're doing very good, my miracles, my wonderful angels. And remember to have healthy eating, appropriate speech, appropriate behavior, appropriate clothing, appropriate spacing, and know the science and anatomy of all things. And if you all would just take the time to do this, this would make an incredible and wonderful difference. If you have a tote anywhere, you can put that tote out and put a food bowl in front of there and just put some food in there in the food bowl and have a blanket or hay. Hay is something that helps installation as well, and thermal. But you can put the tote out there and the blanket. You can put the food out. And if you all would do that, I'm praying that you all would want to be the answers to the prayers. Stay healthy, stay clean, and stay safe. Everyone deserves to have clothes. We are very thankful for the clothes that we have. And the thing is, it took thousands of years of development to know how to make clothes. And so we ought to be thankful for our clothes as well, and bless these little ones with this. Stay healthy. And even robotics deserve to have clothes on as well. Stay healthy. See you soon. Excellent processing. Very good.